I always thought the stories about haunted mirrors were just that. Stories, ghost tales to share around a campfire or during sleepovers. That changed one quiet afternoon when I stumbled upon a beautiful antique mirror at a quaint shop. It was large, ornately framed, and the glass was so clear it seemed to draw me in. Despite the shopkeeper's ominous warning, I couldn't resist purchasing it. When I brought the mirror home to my small apartment, it felt like a charming addition. The place was cozy yet a bit worn, with creaky floors and drafty windows that gave it a certain charm. I leaned the mirror against the wall opposite the couch, and it added an elegant touch, reflecting the soft glow of the floor lamp and making the room feel larger. The first few days with the mirror were uneventful. I admired it every time I walked past, pleased with my find. My routine was simple: work, come home, cook dinner, watch some TV, and then head to bed. But soon, small, strange occurrences began to unfold. Initially, it was just an uneasy feeling, as if someone were watching me. I brushed it off, attributing it to the building's age and my overactive imagination. One evening, while cooking dinner, I noticed a shadow moving in the mirror's reflection. It was just a flicker, barely noticeable, but it made me stop and look closer. I turned around, expecting to see someone or something behind me, but the room was empty, save for the gentle hum of the refrigerator and the sizzling food in the pan. I tried to laugh it off, telling myself it was just a trick of the light, but the shadow kept appearing, each time a little clearer, a little more defined. It moved in ways that didn't match my own movements, lingering in the background just out of focus. It was unsettling, to say the least. One night, while watching TV, I glanced at the mirror and saw the shadow again. This time, it was unmistakable. A dark humanoid figure standing in the corner of the room, its head slightly tilted as if it were observing me. My heart pounded in my chest and a cold sweat broke out on my forehead. I turned to look directly at the corner, but again, there was nothing there, just an empty space. The occurrences became more frequent, the shadows bolder, appearing more often and for longer periods. I started to dread being in the living room alone, yet I couldn't bring myself to move the mirror. It felt like admitting defeat, like acknowledging that something was truly wrong. One night, I decided to test my sanity. I set up my phone to record while I slept, positioning it to capture the mirror. That night, I slept fitfully, plagued by nightmares of dark figures and cold, empty eyes. When I woke up, I almost forgot about the recording. It wasn't until I was having my morning coffee that I remembered. Heart racing, I played the footage back. For the first few hours, there was nothing, just the peaceful, if slightly eerie, reflection of my living room. But then around 2 a.m., the shadow appeared. It slowly emerged from the side of the mirror, stepping into the frame as if it were entering the room. It stood there motionless, watching me. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me as I watched the figure on the screen, unable to comprehend what I was seeing. The figure moved closer to the edge of the mirror and then seemed to vanish. I rewound the footage, watching it over and over, hoping to find some explanation, some trick of the light that I had missed, but it was always the same. The shadow was real. I showed the footage to my friend Lisa. She was skeptical at first, but the look on her face as she watched the video told me she was just as unnerved as I was. She suggested getting rid of the mirror, but something inside me resisted. I needed to understand what was happening. I began researching haunted mirrors, looking for any clue that might explain my situation. I read about mirrors being portals, about spirits trapped within them, about ancient rituals used to cleanse them. The more I read, the more frightened I became. The stories were too similar to my own experience. One night, after another sighting of the shadow, I decided to confront it. I stood in front of the mirror, heart pounding, and spoke aloud, "Who are you? What do you want?" The reflection stared back at me, unchanged. I felt foolish talking to a mirror, but I was desperate. That night, I dreamed of the shadow. It was clearer than ever, standing at the foot of my bed. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. It reached out, and I felt a cold hand on my leg. I woke up with a start, gasping for breath. My leg was icy cold, where the shadow had touched me. The next day, I decided enough was enough. I had to get rid of the mirror. I called a local antique dealer and arranged for them to take it away. As they loaded it into their truck, I felt a strange mix of relief and fear. Would the shadow leave with the mirror, or had I only angered it? That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. The apartment felt lighter, more peaceful. I began to believe that I had made the right decision. But the peace didn't last. A few nights later, I woke up in the middle of the night to the feeling of being watched. I looked around, but the room was empty. I got up to get a glass of water, trying to shake off the feeling. As I passed by the empty spot where the mirror had been, I saw it, the shadow standing in the corner, watching me. My heart stopped. It was no longer bound to the mirror. It was here in my home, and it wasn't going away. I moved out the next day, leaving behind everything I couldn't carry. I never told the new tenants about the shadow, about the figure that watched me from the dark. I couldn't bring myself to do it. I wanted to believe that I was free, that I could escape the cursed mirror. But even now, in my new apartment far away from that accursed reflection, I sometimes see it, a flicker of movement in the corner of my eye, a shadow that doesn't belong. And I know deep down that it will always be with me, watching, waiting, haunting my every step. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more spine-tingling tales, make sure to support the channel by subscribing. Don't forget to check out all our other videos for more thrilling and haunting stories.